Welcome to the fourth tutorial for Advanced Social Psychology and Judgment and Decision Making. And today I'll be going over Qualtrics survey best practices. So for today's tutorial, I'm going to be going over two main things. So one is designing your survey, and the second thing is generating dummy data and exporting files. So under designing survey, I'm going to talk briefly about question formatting, types, validation, which includes comprehension checks, content validation, and then I'll move on to talk about recoding values, answer randomization, blocks and randomized questions, conditions, and previewing your survey. So this process of using Qualtrics, I copied off Phoebe's collaborative guide. So if you want more information, you can look at that. So basically what we want you to do is to sign up for Qualtrics if you haven't already. And then we want you to read the guidelines and then import the Qualtrics survey file template from a replication folder and work on this to design a Qualtrics survey featuring the most accurate replication of the experiment for your assigned replication article. And then we want you to preview the surveys yourself to check if there's any error. After that, we want you to pre-test your survey on your family and friends, and then get feedback, revise or accordingly, and see if there's any problems that you need to fix. After that, we want you to generate random responses from Qualtrics and to create a dummy data set. And then we want you to conduct your analyses on the random data set using R or Jamovi, and then revise Qualtrics and or article analysis if necessary. So the important links for Qualtrics. This is the link for you to sign up to Qualtrics and log into your Qualtrics account. And that's the collaborative guide Phoebe has made. And this is the official guide from Qualtrics on how to use their survey platform. So the customized Qualtrics template. We have a customized Qualtrics template that's customized to cater to MTurk, the US data collection platform. And it already includes the consent form, the demographic information, the funneling section, and the debrief section, amongst other things. So this is really important. Please remember to use the template for your Qualtrics survey, and you can find the template in this Dropbox link, and I'll show it to you later also. So creating a new survey. Once you've created your account and pressed on the blue button around the top right, saying create a new survey or start a new project, you'll arrive to this screen. And what we want you to do when you're naming your project is that you include the authors, the year of the article, the phenomenon or effects, and study number. So for example, you might probably name it something like Baron Hershey 1988 outcome bias study 1. And once you've done that, we want you to upload the Qsf template from Dropbox. So to do that, just merely press from a file and click choose file and upload the file. Okay, so creating questions. It's pretty straightforward. So you just enter your question text in this box here. And alternatively, you can use the rich content editor. And for answers, just add it onto the multiple choice below. By default, Qualtrics sets your question as a multiple choice. There's actually a lot of different types also. I'll show you that later. And another important thing to note that is when you're writing your answers to choices, always follow the original. If it includes both the label and the number, include both. If it includes maybe only the label but not the number, then follow the original. And if you want to add more questions in your block, just click create a question. So formatting. This is also really important. This needs to be consistent across all questions, especially when you have copied and pasted. And it's likely that you'll copy and paste from the original article or from the materials from the original authors. So this needs to be consistent because when you've copied and pasted, sometimes there's like an odd bolding of a word here or italicizing or underlining a word there. And yeah, Chinu's also put something on the chat, so do take note of that. So he said only for Only label for some numbers, e.g. if they only have labeled the scale ends. Always follow the original if possible. Yeah, so to remove formatting of that type, just click on Remove Formatting. If there's nothing wrong with formatting, this button should not show up. Alternatively, you can click on Rich Content Editor and press on this button to remove formatting. Also, note that once you've removed formatting, sometimes there might be odd punctuation or spaces in your question. So do remember to proofread the question and remove those. So, question types. As mentioned previously, Qualtrics sets your question by default as a multiple choice. And to change your question type, go to the panel on the right when you click on a question, and you'll see something like this. To change a question type, just click on multiple choice, and a window like this would pop up. And as you can see, there's a lot of different question types. But for your replication extension assessment, we want you to focus on static content and standard questions. And if you have more than 10 items or questions that needs to be rated on the same scale, we want you to use matrix table instead of making, for example, 10 or more multiple choice questions. And when you choose matrix table, remember to choose repeat headers with the option middle. And here are the instructions to do so. I won't go through them. So, validation options. This is also on the panel on the right of the question, and you should select this for all of your questions except for the last funneling question in Phoebe's template, which is, did you spot any errors, anything missing or wrong, something we should pay attention to in next runs. So when you choose this option, by default, it should be force response. So make sure you don't choose a request response, because force response makes sure the respondent has to answer the question before they move on to the next page. Whereas for request response, it merely notifies the respondent that they haven't answered a question, and they have the option of choosing to skip that question and move on to the next page. So remember to choose force response. Okay, on the same panel, there's also the validation type. Only select this when you have questions for comprehension checks. And I'm going to explain further about this now. So, comprehension check. This example is from Ziano et al. 2020. So the text says that, imagine you are a government official of a small developing country, and you are asked to evaluate 6 government programs, program A, B, C, D, E, and F. So all of the programs cost about the same, and all are being considered for funding. Details of each program are explained in the following. So the comprehension check question is, how many government programs are presented in this scenario? And the answers that you can choose from are 3, 6, and 9. And if the respondents read that properly, then the actual answer is 6. And as you can see from their example, they've chosen force response, and for validation type, they've chosen custom validation. So when you've chosen custom validation, this window pops up. And as you can see, it says that validation will pass if a certain condition is met. So in the case of this example, the condition is only met if the respondent chooses the answer 6. So when you set this, the respondents can only move on to the next page if they chose the correct answer. So content validation. This is only applicable for text entry answers only. So this option will only pop up when your answer has been chosen or specified to be text content specific. So this example is from Liu et al. 2019. It's asking the respondent, we would like you to try to estimate as accurately as you can what percentage of your peers would donate blood if they were not to be paid. And bracket, please answer in number from 0 to 100. So in order to restrict your respondents to answer a content-specific answer, click Content Validation, and for content type, choose the specific content you want, so in this case, number. And then they moved on to further restrict the respondents to a minimum of 0 and maximum of 100. So Moving on to recoding values. By default, the first answer is always assigned a value of 1 by Qualtrics, and the second answer is assigned a value of 2, and the third answer is assigned a value of 3, and so on. So, also, when you're adding items, deleting one and adding more items can also mess up your coded values. This might not make sense now, but I'll show you later and might make more sense later. But either way, both of these would affect your data analysis if the values doesn't tally with your scale number. So in order to change your values or recode them, you have to go to panel left and you'll see a cog button, so the settings button. All you have to do is press on recode values and this window will pop up. And as an example here, disagree should have a scale value of 0, but Qualtrics assigned a number 1, and neutral should have a scale value of 1, and Qualtrics assigned a value of 2 to it. In order to change it, just simply press on recode values, and then you should be able to edit those to the actual scale number. So, on to randomization. It's likely that when you present your survey to your respondents that you'll have to randomize your answers. So to do so, you'll have to click on the settings button on the left again, click on randomization, and this choice randomization window will also pop up. And all you have to do is just select display numbers in a random order, save your choice, and you're done. So, icon meanings. If you've chosen validation option or forced response for your answer, this icon with the asterisk should show up. And if you've chosen to randomize your answer, this icon with the flowy arrows would show up. And if you've recoded your values, then the icon with the X and the arrow will show up. You can also just press on these icons as a shortcut to those windows. And for page breaks, if you want to separate your questions onto the next page to make things easier for the respondent, or at least to make the survey look shorter, then just click on Add Page Break under the Actions section on the panel on the right. So, blocks. So blocks are for randomly or conditionally showing a block of questions. And what we want to do is to have one block for one condition. And adding blocks are pretty straightforward. Under a block, you'll see an Add Block button. Just press on that and then the block will show up. So when you have the blocks, do remember to assign meaningful block names. So for example, I might name this block as the control condition and this block as the experimental condition. So once you've set up your blocks and added all the questions necessary for each condition, you probably want to randomly show either of the conditions to your respondent or show your respondent the conditions in randomized order. In order to do so, you have to use the survey flow randomizer. And as said previously, this is for randomly presenting question blocks or other survey elements. So what you want to do is go to the top part of the questionnaire and click on survey flow. Once you've done that, a window with all your blocks and elements would show up. And to add the randomizer, you just have to click on Add Below in either your block or click on Add a New Element here under your blocks. Once you've done that, a yellow box will also show up. As you can see, there's a lot of different choices, but what we want you to focus on is to click on the purple button that says Randomizer. Once you've done that, the purple box with Randomizer will show up. And as you can see, it says that randomly present an X number of the following elements. So this number denotes the number of blocks you want to show to your respondents. So for example, if you have 3 conditions and you only want to show one condition to your respondent, just put 1 there. And if you have 3 conditions and you just want to show your respondents a randomized order of all 3 of them, just put 3 in there. And you can also check evenly presents elements. So this presents each block around an equal number of times across respondents. But if you want to unevenly present an unevenly present blocks, then all you have to do is press on Edit Counts and adjust the numbers accordingly. So once you've done all of that, what you have to do is to preview your entire survey. To do that, you'll just have to go to the preview button near the top right. And we want you to rerun the survey at least per number of conditions. So for example, if you have 3 conditions and you only want to show 1 to your respondents, we want you to rerun the survey at least 3 times for the 3 conditions. Sorry, 1 time for at least 1 condition. So we want you to preview the survey because we want you to check whether the comprehension checks, the randomization, and the validation works as intended, and to also check whether the scales you've added is shown clearly. While you're working on your survey, you might also want to preview the individual question. So in order to do so, just go to the panel on the right of your question and click on Preview Questions under Actions. So after you finish making your survey, finish previewing and editing the stuff that doesn't work properly, what we want you to do is to generate test responses. These are dummy data, so it doesn't actually have real research value. So we want you to generate test responses because we want you to check how your data sets or reports will look. But do know that custom validation won't work for these responses. And this will also help you with designing a data analysis plan. So to generate test responses, you'll have to go to Tools, click on Review, and click on Generate Test Responses. This Generate Test Responses window will pop up, and the number of responses that you want to put in the box is the number you would generate from your power analysis. If you haven't conducted your power analysis, input 1,000 here. And once you've done that, just click Start Test, and this window would show up saying the test iterations remaining and how many responses are saved. I think Feely mentioned in his guide that if you put 1,000, sometimes Qualtrics crashes. So if that happens, don't worry. All you have to do is just go to Data Analysis and check how many responses are saved. And once you've seen how many responses are saved, just go back to Generate Test Responses and put the number that's left over. So, exporting data. Once you've finished generating test responses, it often takes some time to load, so it'll take around maybe a minute or 2. Once it's finished loading, what you want to do is go to Export and Import, click on Export Data, and we want you to choose SPSS in the download data table. This is because SPSS can be read by both R and Jamovi. And when you've chosen SPSS, remember to click Download All Fields. And there's something else that you also select. I'll show you in the next slide. This is in the More Options tab. But this is just as a second resort if you can't download the SPSS SAV file. So the second resort is to use the CSV file. And when you've chosen this, do remember to choose Use Numeric Values instead of Choice Text. So when you've chosen an SPSS file, do remember to click More Options and to remember to select Export Viewing Data, Order Data for Randomized Surveys so that we'll know how the blocks were randomly shown to respondents. And also, the SPSS file is often automatically downloaded as a zip file. If you don't want that to happen, just deselect this. Once you've finished doing all of that, if I remember correctly, for your replication extension assessment, you have to export both the Qsf file and the document file and upload it to a Dropbox link. So to export the survey, you have to click on Tools and go to Import Export. And for Qsf file, just simply click on Export Survey. For a document, just click on Export Survey to Word. And this window should show up. Most of these selections should be automatically selected, but it doesn't select Show Logic and Show Survey Flow. These two are really important things. So when you're exporting a Word document, do remember to select these two. So these are the references for today's tutorial. I'm now going to show you Feely's template briefly. So this is the Dropbox file for the template. And as you can see, there's the Word document for the survey flow. So once you've exported your survey, it will look something like this. You can see all of the elements and all of the questions. And this is a template you have to download for your own survey. So what you want to do is create a new project and click on survey and name your project. And upload the template. And click on Get Started. Yeah, so this is how Feely's template will look like in Qualtrics. And as you can see, there's a constant block. You don't have to change anything here, so you can just leave it. But for the study outline and verifications, as you can see, the study outline is very generic, so you have to take it to your own replication extension assessment. And as you can see, Feely set force response for this, and that choice randomization has been selected, and he's recoded the values, so that's good. Another thing to note is that I probably forgot to mention, do remember to rename your questions as something meaningful. And as you can see, there's the funneling section. And this is the question where you don't have to set force response. So just deselect that, then you'll be fine. And there's a demographic section, the debrief section. So what you want to do is to add your own questions and your blocks right before the funneling section. So just simply add block and create a new question. And as I've said before, the recoding values with the adding items and deleting thing, it's a bit confusing, but I'm going to show you now. So for example, if I remove question 2 and add 3 more questions, you can see it's not in chronological order already. So if you click on recode values, you can see it's not in chronological order as mentioned. This can muck up your data analysis, so do remember to recode your values. And this is how a matrix table looks like. So if you have, for example, 10 questions, it's a lot better to use matrix tables rather than making 10 multiple choice questions with the same scales. So when you make your matrix table, what we meant by having repeat headers is this. So it's so that the respondents, you can remind the respondents about the scale points. And when you choose survey flow, yeah, this is what it will look like. And if I remember correctly, there should already be a randomizer added. So all you have to do is to drag your conditions under the randomizer and just tailor it to what you want. And when you do this, do remember to click Save Flow. That's pretty important. And I think that's it for today's tutorial. If you don't have any questions, you're free to leave.